With an annual production exceeding 1.006 billion cubic meters, Saudi Arabia provides 18% of the total world's desalinated water, making it more precious than gold. And that's the only reason Saudi Arabia is building an artificial desert underground river, stretching even longer than the Nile. But how does the fresh water get to everyone's home? A massive network of pipes, each around 2.25 meters in diameter, will carry the fresh water to different parts of the country. In today's video, we'll discuss how this underground river will transform the world and enhance the economy of Saudi Arabia. In the upcoming years, this massive river will stretch over 12,000 kilometers through Saudi Arabia's deserts, 11 meters wide and 4 meters deep. But that's not just about being the longest underground canal in the world. Here's an interesting thing about it. They're using advanced desalination technology to turn salty seawater into fresh, drinkable water. With a budget that's through the roof, this project shows how serious Saudi Arabia is about solving water scarcity. The idea is to turn barren deserts into lush, green, fertile land, completely transforming the landscape. This isn't just about survival, it's about leading the way in environmental innovation. So, how will this solid plan help secure water and food for the future? And could Saudi Arabia really become a green oasis in the desert? Let's break it down. Saudi Arabia is one of the most water-scarce countries in the world, with a large gap between demand and supply. Climate change is expected to worsen the situation, and traditional groundwater resources are limited. Non-renewable groundwater is being depleted, and Saudi Arabia receives less than 100 millimeters of rainfall per year. The water situation in Saudi Arabia has been deteriorating in recent decades due to water scarcity, high demand, and poor management. The country has been using renewable groundwater and desalinated seawater to meet its water needs. Historically, Saudi Arabia has relied on desalination plants and fossil groundwater to meet its water demands. This solution is not sustainable in the long term, prompting the country to look for new ways to protect its water resources. Known as the Green Rider Project, or the Saudi National Water Master Plan. This initiative aims to transform water use in the parched country. With deserts covering much of its territory, Saudi Arabia deals with water scarcity and relies heavily on desalination and groundwater extraction. The Green Rider Project is complex and ambitious, with the potential to reshape Saudi Arabia's water situation and economic future. Its success depends on effectively addressing challenges and ensuring environmental sustainability and long-term economic and social benefits. Back in the day, Saudi Arabia relied on its local renewable water sources. You can imagine small-scale farming and daily water needs being met by natural water. But things changed dramatically over the years. The kingdom shifted to using two major water sources that seemed almost endless: desalinated seawater and ancient, deep-buried fossil groundwater. This change was a turning point. It allowed Saudi Arabia to act like countries with abundant rain and rivers. Suddenly, they could support large farms and supply water to homes, shops, and factories. By 2019, 60% of Saudi Arabia's water came from desalinated water, mostly from the Red Sea. The remaining 40% was from non-renewable fossil groundwater. Despite its dry climate, the agricultural sector still uses a whopping 67% of this water. Since the 1950s, Saudi Arabia has been a pioneer in desalination, producing a staggering 7.6 million cubic meters of desalinated water daily by October 2020. Their Saline Water Conversion Corporation operates 33 plants across 17 locations, making Saudi Arabia the global leader in desalination. They produce over 1.006 billion cubic meters annually, covering 18% of the world's total. Plus, these plants generate 24 million megawatt hours of electricity, showcasing an integrated approach to water and energy needs. You might be wondering, why is there a need to build this artificial desert river? Saudi Arabia, with hardly any rain, is always on the hunt for water solutions. Desalination, or turning seawater into fresh water, has been their go-to, but it's not perfect, which is why they need something more sustainable in the long run. And if you discuss the economy, Saudi Arabia relies a lot on oil revenues. Global oil prices are super unpredictable, and the world is slowly shifting towards renewable energy. So, what's the plan? An artificial river project. This isn't just about fixing the water shortage, it's a game changer for agriculture too. Plus, it's all about sustainable development, ensuring the nation's growth is eco-friendly. In just a few years, a massive network of pipes, each 2.25 meters in diameter, will be crisscrossing beneath Saudi cities. These pipes, stretching over an incredible 126,000 kilometers, that's enough to circle the globe 3 times, will transport fresh water to every corner of the country. So, what makes this network so special? Well, it's expected to produce an astounding 9.4 million cubic meters of water every day. That's like turning the desert green, literally. If we spread this water around the globe, every person on Earth could get about 2 gallons or 2 bottles of water. Because of Saudi Arabia's desalination efforts, this artificial river will run underground, which is genius because it cuts down on water loss through evaporation, a huge deal given the scorching desert heat. You can imagine a channel 11 meters wide and 4 meters deep, ensuring water flows steadily even to the driest parts of the country. Saudi Arabia used to rely on thermal desalination, which burned a ton of fuel and emitted lots of CO2, but now they've switched to a method called reverse osmosis, RO, slashing their fuel use by 80% and nearly eliminating CO2 emissions. That's a big win for the environment. But the thing is, desalination produces brine, a super salty byproduct that's usually dumped back into the sea. This raises coastal salinity levels, which can harm marine life and disrupt ecosystems. So, while desalination is an effective process for turning seawater into freshwater, it's not a perfect solution for our future water needs. That is why Saudi Arabia isn't just stopping at desalination. They're also investing in innovative strategies to use water more efficiently and cut down on overall consumption. From advanced irrigation systems in agriculture to smart water management in cities, they're exploring every avenue to make sure they're not just relying on desalination alone. And how does this river contribute to agriculture success? Saudi Arabia now relies significantly on food imports. The artificial river aims to change this by allowing domestic food production. The country may become more self-sufficient, assuring a steady and secure food supply for its rising population. You can imagine the peace of mind that comes from knowing your food is grown on your own property, rather than being sourced from elsewhere. This idea aims to provide opportunities rather than just crops. Large-scale agriculture necessitates personnel, from cultivation and processing to transportation and distribution. This translates to potential employment generation in a variety of areas, which benefits the broader economy. Did you know that Saudi Arabia used to be super generous with water? It was so cheap that everyone used tons of it, especially for farming. Imagine this, from 1980 to 1994, the amount of water used nearly tripled, but most of that came from underground sources. So, while it seemed like there was an endless supply of water, the reality was quite different. These underground reservoirs were being drained at an alarming rate, far faster than they could naturally refill. By 1995, the government realized that it had used up a lot of this precious water. Up until 1994, people didn't even have to pay for water at home. It was completely free. But then the government started charging a little bit for water use. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and the government started thinking differently about how to manage water. They decided to get businesses involved, not just in building water plants, but also in paying for them and running them. Seeing how much water was being wasted, they knew something had to change. So, in 2000, the government began cutting back on how much money they were spending to support water costs. They encouraged farmers to use water more wisely with cool new tools like drip irrigation. This method delivers water directly to the roots of plants and uses sensors to check how moist the soil is. One big change was in wheat farming, which used a lot of water. Saudi Arabia went from producing 4 million tons of wheat in 1992 to stopping wheat farming altogether by 2016. So, next time you think about water, remember how important it is to use wisely. Saudi Arabia has made some big changes, and it's a great example about how we can all think differently about our resources. So, we discussed earlier about turning salty water into fresh water, but how do we do this? It's all about removing the salt and impurities, and we have 2 cool methods to do this: membrane desalination and thermal desalination. Let's start with membrane desalination. You'll see that seawater is being pushed through a super fine filter. This filter is so clever that it lets water molecules through but traps all the salt, minerals, and other impurities. What you get is clean, fresh water. This method, it's not only super efficient, but it also works at lower temperatures, making it perfect for large-scale projects. Now, onto thermal desalination. This one's a bit like nature's own water cycle. We heat the seawater until it turns into a vapor, leaving all the salts and impurities behind. Then we cool the vapor back into a liquid form. and voila, pure water. Although it does use more energy, thermal desalination is incredibly effective and reliable, especially in places with plenty of energy resources. So, whether it's through high-tech filters or nature-inspired evaporation, desalination is a game changer for providing fresh water where it's needed most. This isn't just any waterway. It's equipped with a cutting-edge system of pipelines and reservoirs. What's so special about it? Well, it's designed to be super eco-friendly and ultra-efficient. Every single drop of water is used wisely to support everything from city parks to farmlands. This river also has the potential to transform desert landscapes. We're talking about enhancing biodiversity, supporting agriculture, and creating lush green spaces where you'd never expect them. But that's not all. This project can also help cool down urban areas by reducing the heat island effect. Plus, it provides new homes for wildlife, enriching the local ecosystem. So, not only does it make cities cooler and greener, but it also invites nature back into places it hasn't thrived in for ages. Saline Water Conversion Corporation, or SWCC, is a state-owned organization, making sure there's enough fresh water for the country's booming population and industries. SWCC runs several desalination plants along the eastern coast and other coastal areas of Saudi Arabia. These plants are the powerhouse behind Saudi Arabia being the top producer of desalinated water in the world. Can you believe they produce over 1.6 billion cubic meters of water every year? This incredible amount of water is essential for life and economic activities in Saudi Arabia, especially since natural freshwater resources are almost non-existent here. Just the plants on the eastern coast can produce 495 million cubic meters, and other coastal stations add another 51.3 million cubic meters. The country's 27 desalination plants don't just provide water, they also generate a whopping 24,888,487 megawatt hours of electrical energy. This energy powers the desalination process and supports the kingdom's infrastructure, highlighting just how crucial these plants are to Saudi Arabia's sustainability and growth. But it doesn't stop there. Alongside this amazing river, there are educational and community initiatives to teach locals about water conservation and sustainable practices. It's not just about building a structure, it's about reimagining urban living. This river symbolizes a whole new way of thinking about sustainability and city planning, setting a new standard for projects around the world. By integrating environmental care with economic and social planning, this project sets a new benchmark for countries with similar climates and challenges. Before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. What do you think about this incredible project? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love reading about your opinions and ideas. If you're as fascinated by these mega projects changing our world as we are, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way, you won't miss out on any of our future videos.